today I just want us to think about grammar and to think about time before we do anything else. So in English, grammar is time, more or less. So you're using grammar to show when something happened, more or less. It's, there's many different kinds of grammar in English, but for the most part, we are using this to say when something is happening. So basically, let's look at 3 sentences. Okay, we have 3 sentences here. I went to the beach. I am going to the beach. I will go to the beach. So who can tell me which of these 3 sentences is the future? Who can tell me which sentence is the future? Mohammed?
The third sentence is talking about the future.
Yes.
The third one. I will go to the beach.
Yes, good, Mohammed. One moment. Can everybody hear me? I just want to make, can you hear me, everybody?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay. I just
Yes,
want
I
to,
can.
Gerardo, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, sorry. Okay, Mohammed, you were perfectly correct, right? So the third sentence is the future, right? Good.
Even the second one, we can use it as a plan in the future. I'm going to the beach.
You can.
After a moment, yes.
You can, absolutely. You can use the second one with a future sense. That's correct. Very good, Mohammed. Who can tell me which sentence here is the past tense?
I went to the beach.
Yeah, so very good, right? This one is the past tense. And which one is the present tense? Which one is happening now, or as Mohammed said, could be used for future plans? Which sentence is now present? How about Moro? Moro, can you tell me which sentence is the present tense, Moro?
The present tense?
Yeah, which of these 3 sentences is happening now, for example?
Second one.
Yeah, exactly, right? So here is what we have, right? We have 1 sentence in the past, 1 sentence in the present, and 1 sentence in the future. So look at what I'm drawing here. This is my timeline, right? So just think about this, because the main mistake or the main problem that students have with grammar is they don't understand why they are using the grammar. So they just trying to memorize words, but you really need to think about what grammar is. So what do I call now? What is the word for right now?
Present.
Yeah, exactly, right? So here we have the present. That's happening right now. These are easy questions. I'm just trying to get us thinking about it. What is before now called?
Past.
The past. Yeah, exactly. You're right. And then what do we call after now?
The future.
Yeah, exactly, right? Okay, so of course, as we know, we cannot go backwards in time. You can only go forwards in time, right? Can't go backwards. You can only go forwards. And we are only truly in the present at all times, right? We're in the present moment. So in these three sentences, how do you know which one is, how do you know the time? By looking at these three sentences, right? What part of the sentence determines time? Like what specific part of it?
Verb.
Verbs.
Yes, exactly, right? It's the verbs, right? So look, the subject is the same. In all three of these sentences, the subject is the same. And look at the object. The object of the sentence is also the same here. So the only thing that is different is the verb. The verb tells you when something is happening. So you must change the verb to signal time. Change the verb to say when, right? That's grammar, essentially. So when we're doing the past perfect, when we talk about past perfect, are we talking about the future, the present, or the past? What are we focusing on?
Past.
Yeah, the past. Very good. And specifically with the past perfect, we're focusing on two events that both occurred in the past. So one thing happens before the other. One thing happens first. And you need to let your listener know the sequence, the order of events. That's why we use the past perfect. It's to show a sequence, an order, so people know what order something happened in. So I don't normally explain the grammar that much, but before we start, but I think that that's really important to understand, that we are in the present moment right now. We cannot go backwards, but we are talking about the past. So that's the first thing before we go any further that you need to understand. So now let's look at a couple of these sentences. I'm going to skip the warm-up for right now because I want to do it at the end. I changed my mind. But let's just start with this practice here. And let's look at these four sentences. Practice which event happened first. So I only want you to tell me in each sentence which event or which action happened first, happened before the other one. So let me give you a clue. Obviously, it's the verb, right? It's the verb that determines when something happened. So let's ask, I'm gonna ask maybe Mohammed, sentence number 1. By the time I ate dinner, I had drunk 2 glasses of wine. Which event happened first? There's 2 actions in the sentence. Which one occurred first?
I had drunk first, and I ate after.
Exactly. So in this sentence, there are 2 events, 2 actions, 2 verbs. Ate dinner, had drunk 2 glasses of wine. 2 things are happening in this sentence. As Mohammed said, first, I had I had drunk 2 glasses of wine by the time I ate dinner. So that's correct. Great job, Mohammed. So let's go back to our whiteboard. So let's imagine it. First, we have the 2 glasses of wine right here. 1 glass, 2 glasses of wine. And by the time I ate dinner, I had drunk 2 glasses of wine. So first you had the glass, you had the wine, and then you ate dinner. And the way I know which one happened first is because I see the past perfect. And the past perfect, if you did not remember, is subject plus had plus past participle, which is also called verb 3. I call it verb 3 for shorthand. But so when you see this grammar, the past perfect, you know that that is the first event which occurred. Great job, Mohammed. Okay, Raj. Raj, sentence number 2, Raj. I had visited 4 countries by the time I left for college. Which event or which action, which thing happened first? Which one happened before the other?
I had visited 4 countries.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know that this is true because this
Yes.
grammar, the way you change the verb, dictates or determines, right? It signals which one came first. That is the function or the purpose of this grammar. That is really fair. A little bit more expanded practice. And let's add the word had to complete each sentence correctly. So you must insert the word at had. You need to put that word into the sentence to make the sentence correct. So who wants to try the letter A? It's a little tricky. It's a little confusing. But all right, Tanu Khan. Thank you, Tanu. I will unmute you. And please read the sentence and please put this word into the correct place. So let's see here. I just need to unmute you, Tanu. Okay.
By the time it had arrived, the deadline passed.
Let's try it a different way.
Okay. By the time it
By the time it arrived,
had arrived,
the deadline
had passed.
Yeah, so let's just, good job, Tanu. Let's imagine the situation. So, for example, here, imagine there's a deadline, right? A deadline is a time limit where you must submit something. And for example, let's talk about a term paper, an essay you write in university for a professor. So maybe the deadline or the limit to submit the document, it happened, right? And the student submits the test or the essay. Let's say the essay, right? So let's just try to imagine the 2 sequence of events here. So by the time it had arrived, the deadline had passed, right? So a little confusing to try to visualize that. By the time it arrived, the deadline had passed. Good job, Tanu. Who wants to try letter B? They looked for him,
Contact?
but he just walked home.
They had looked for him. Sorry. They looked for him, but he had just walked to home.
Excellent. Yeah. So try to imagine the situation, right? Maybe some friends are at a party. Some friends are at a party, and there's 4 friends together at a big party, and one friend goes home, and he goes home without saying goodbye to his friends. So then after he goes home, his friends look for him at the party, right? They looked for him, but he had just walked home before that. So again, this is the past, 2 things in the past. In order to say which one happened first, in order to show which one happened first, we use the grammar, the past perfect. And oftentimes people say this word just in English, and when they say it like this, they mean recently, right? He had recently walked home. He had just walked home. But just is much more common in informal speech. Okay, Moro.
Okay.
Great job, Tanu. Moro, let's have you try letter C. I intended to speak with the manager, but she gone into a meeting.
Okay. I intended to speak with the manager, but she had gone into a meeting.
Yes. And Moro, which of these 2 actions occurred first?
She had gone into a meeting.
Yeah, exactly, right? So first, she goes into the meeting. Then, I intend to speak with the manager. That's what happened. But right now, in the present moment, in order to explain to somebody what happened, because there are 2 events in the past, I have to use the past perfect to signal which event occurred first. Okay, really good. Before the speaking, I want to ask you a bonus question. Who can tell me the past participle? Verb 3, right? Because that is one of the parts of the form, right? So you need to know the past participle. Who can tell me the past participle? Regular verbs. Who can help me with that one? Explain it to me. What is it?
Regular verbs. So it's when we just add ed at the end of the word.
Exactly. Right? So the past participle is when we just add ed to the end of the verb for regular verbs. So for example, talk, verb 1, talked, verb 2, past tense, simple past participle for all regular verbs, verb plus ed. Talk, talked, talked. So we have verb 1, verb 2, verb 3. But how do we know for irregular verbs, right? Many verbs are regular, but many verbs are not irregular. So for irregular verbs, Raj, how do I know, or what do I do? Oh, for some reason, Raj, I cannot hear you. There are many irregular verbs in English, and for the past participle, unfortunately, there is no rule. You just have to memorize it. So if you look back at the last one that Moro just answered correctly for us as a class, right? He knew that he knew the answer because he recognized that this is the past participle. He recognized that because it's an irregular verb. So that's how he knew. So that's another important thing that you have to remember. Irregular verbs, regular verbs with the past participle. Okay, so let's go back to the top. And now let's do some speaking. So I'm going to give you a situation, and then I'm going to ask you what had happened before that. So let's start with any volunteers? Does anybody want to volunteer to go first? It's a little challenging, but all right.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to start with Mohammed, then I'll go to Raj, and then I'll give everybody an opportunity if they want. So, okay, remember everybody, the goal is to use the grammar, right? The goal is to use the past perfect. So when you speak, when you answer, of course, make an effort to say past perfect grammar. But don't worry if it's difficult. Don't worry if you make a mistake. This is a complicated, or it's a challenging grammar. Many students have issues with it, so we're just here to practice. So no pressure, no stress. All right, Mohammed. So here's situation A. The child was crying and his mom was angry. What had happened? What do you think? Give us one example of what could have happened. What had happened?
I didn't understand. I didn't understand the question exactly about.
So
But
I want you.
I have to change this phrase to.
I'm gonna give you a situation, something that's happening or was happening, and I want you to theoretically or hypothetically make up a story about what had happened before this. So,
Okay.
so for example, A, the child was crying and his mom was angry. What had happened?
In my opinion, the mom gave candy to the child because he had cried.
Okay, that was good. The grammar was perfect. That was perfect grammar. Okay.
Mohammed, I
Go
could
for it,
not
Raj.
listen you. Yeah, Mohammed, I could not listen you. Can
Go for it. You arrived home and the police were waiting outside.
okay?
What had
I
happened?
think the person had made some crime and the police was waiting outside his home.
Okay, let's say this. Someone
Someone
had
had
committed a
committed
crime.
crime,
So the
so that
police
police waiting outside.
Good. Okay, so this is a little different, right? But actually, you could say this, right? It doesn't exactly follow this is not exactly the simple past, but it's still the same idea. It's still the same
Yes,
concept. They were waiting. I mean, it's still something in the past, and this happened after this happened. So, yeah,
police waited outside
you could say waited, right?
before someone had committed a crime before the police arrived. Arrived
What you're saying,
outside of his home.
I mean, I really like how you said it the first time, even though you use the past continuous, not the simple past, because this is a little bit more advanced. But when regular people speak, they often mix tenses. So this is just something that people do, like native speakers, right? You don't, when an American or British person speaks, you don't speak like perfect textbook English every sentence, like the textbook English perfect grammar, right? So you can mix tenses a little bit in some cases. Yeah, exactly. So very good job, Raj. Can I get maybe finished? It's very important in conclusion to understand grammar is time, and in English you need to change the verb to say when something happened, right? So that's why we use the past perfect, to signal or to demonstrate the sequence or the order of events. That's really the most important part of today's class. So when you see this grammar, the past perfect, you know that someone's trying to order or to organize events in the past. Well, that was basically it. That's basically our class for the day. I'm going to unmute everybody. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. I unmuted everybody, so if you have a question about the lesson or about anything English related, any grammar or anything, now is a good time to ask. Raj, it looks like you have a question.
Yes, my question is, when we speak first part of the sentence, the situation we don't know. We, suppose we are speaking continuously about any particular event, or whatever is happening, whatever is happening. So
Yeah.
how we come to know that we are speaking past tense in a right way. First part, I am talking about first part. We are not adding the second one. First condition we are, yes. Suppose I had gone to market,
Yeah.
and then how will I recognize the first sentence that it is, yeah.
Well, I mean, there's just, well, I guess the first is just you have to understand this. I'll type it in the chat bar. Simple past versus past continuous. I mean, you really have to understand why.
Yeah,
You have to understand both of those things first. That's the most important thing. The difference between an action that is completed and finished in the past versus an action that you're describing that was in progress or was happening at a certain moment in the past. So you must first understand that, and then you just use the past perfect after that to sequence events, to sequence
okay.
in order.
I am yeah.
But it's very
I am
common. It's very common to mix all three: simple past, past perfect, past continuous. It's very common to mix all three of those together when you're talking about the past or when you're telling a story. And here's just something that's simpler. To be honest, like most Americans don't even really use the past perfect. They don't even really use it. They just use the simple past. I went to the store, I saw my friend before that. Like most Americans, when they speak regular people, they don't even really use the past perfect that much, because instead of like, it's just because of contractions, like I had talked, then I'd talked. And then you say I'd talked really fast, and then eventually you can't really hear the D. So then eventually you just have, you had I'd, right, talked. And then eventually people say I talked. You can't really hear the D. So then you just have the simple past again. So to be honest, a lot of Americans don't even use past perfect, but you need to know it obviously because you see it in writing. When you're reading, it's very common. It's much more common when you're reading to encounter the past perfect. But of course, you have to know it because it's just I mean, everybody knows it, but it's just common to only use the simple past. But long story short, Raj, I cannot explain that entire answer to you because it would take too long. But you really just need to start by understanding the difference between the simple past and the past continuous. That's the first step.
No, while speaking or writing in past perfect tense,
Mhm.
I have to understand the circumstances or the situation on which I am writing or speaking, right?
Of course, yeah, of
So
course, the
when
context, and you just
yes,
have
I yes, I understand, and there is no problem now.